Hello and welcome to the Chris Pagentine Basketball Network. Today I've got a great interview with an absolute basketball legend. This man was an amazing player at Seton Hall in the Big East in the early 2000s. He had a fantastic career overseas, spending most of his time in the Czech Republic, playing to the age of 40 years old, which there's only a select few in that club. Okay, then turning around and being a head coach in the top league of the Czech Republic. Now he's an NCAA Division I coach. He drops a lot of knowledge on us, and you're not going to want to miss this one. Stick around because I'm so excited to present you with Levell Sanders. And before we get to this video, guys, a huge thank you goes out to On to the Next Apparel. Please go follow them at OTTN Apparel on Instagram, a great basketball and lifestyle brand. Hello, CPB Network. Today I'm joined by an absolute basketball legend. I don't want to give up too much of his background. He's going to inform you on that. His name is Levell Sanders. He's played at every level of basketball and also coached at every level of basketball. Coach Sanders, thank you so much for being here and offering your wisdom and your time to us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Chris, man. Thanks for inviting me. Anytime I get a chance to do these type of, interviews, I always enjoy them. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy this one also.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for both myself and the viewers because you've got so much knowledge and so much wisdom to give. And so let's start with, before we get to obviously your career overseas, long, fruitful career, now turning and then being a pro coach, now a coach at the NCAA Division I level. Let's take it back to when you were in high school and you started getting your recruitment. Take us through that experience and what ultimately led you to making your college decision.
Well, I went to three high schools. I started out at Lincoln. I went to Lincoln because my mother had went to Lincoln. So, I wanted to go to Lincoln because she went there. And I didn't know at the time that Lincoln was basically the Marbury brothers were kind of in control of everything that was happening over at Lincoln High School. So I went there, and usually, in the States, you have that JV and the varsity type of thing. So I tried out for the varsity. Definitely thought I should have make it. I was one of the last cuts, and they chose Asher Beard over me, who was actually, he was a family member of the Marbury brothers.
Okay.
So I thought I should have made it. End up playing JV for that year, my freshman year, and then a family friend by the name of Gil Reynolds, who probably the best coach that I've ever had. He was a great teacher. Definitely, one of the best teachers of fundamentals that I've ever come in contact with.
Really, of all your levels of play?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's coached. He's from Brooklyn. He coached, a ton of NBA players. Everybody in Brooklyn knows him. He's passed away now, but everybody in Brooklyn knows him. So if you say the name Gil Reynolds, a lot of people know him. So I ended up working out with Gil Reynolds in the park at 335 Park in Brooklyn. My uncle took me over to meet him. And after we finished working out, he was saying, listen, he was telling my grandmother, listen, if you give me opportunity to take your grandson down to Laurinburg Institute, I will make him an All-American from head to toe. So my sophomore year, I left and went to prep school in North Carolina at Laurinburg Institute.
Yeah, I know Laurinburg. I'm from North Carolina.
Right. So
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Famous Laurinburg.
Yeah.
Ton of basketball legends. The trumpet legend went there, Dizzy Gillespie. So it was a really, really famous school. But the problem was when I went down there, we didn't have a math or science teacher from September to February.
Okay.
So my grandmother, she didn't like that. So she was like, listen, you got to get out of there. But while I was there, I had opportunity to be coached by Coach Reynolds the whole year. And I said this before, it was like one of those Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi type of situations because, he had me like, breaking up the parquet floor, putting it back together. He was helping me get better. I played him a ton of one-on-one, and he used to. I used to leave those one-on-ones bloody, because he used to.
Really?
He was like 50 years old, but in really good shape. So he was able to play one-on-one, and I used to drive by him. I used to, do my little moves, go by him, and he used to like hack me. He used to, he used to make me bleed. And I just started shooting jump shots, and that's how I really developed my jump shot. And he told me after that's what he was doing. He was like, "Listen, I'm, I'm 50 years old. Of course you can drive by me." So he would foul me and scratch me, and so much that I didn't want to drive, and I just started shooting jump shots. So again, it was one of those Mr. Miyagi type of situation. So after Laurinburg, because my grandmother, she was like, "Listen, this is no math or science teachers. You got to get out of there." So I came back to New York, and because I'm from Brooklyn, and my zone high school was Boys and Girls High School.
Okay.
But I didn't want to go to the high school in my neighborhood where everybody was going, that I knew everybody. So I wanted to go to a different high school. But what happened was I ended up meeting a guy that I knew from since we were young. His name was Travis, but he walked with a limp, and he had a problem with his hip, so he had a surgery. And he told me that he was going to Jamaica High School in Queens. He was averaging, I think, 14 or 16 a game or something like that. And I was shocked. I was saying to myself, like, listen, a dude with a limp averaging 14 or 16 at this high school.
You're gonna kill it.
I'm gonna go there and go crazy, So I ended up, because you can't, if you're not from Queens, or you're not, you have to go where your zone school tells you to go. So I ended up using his address, got into Jamaica High School. So I ended up going to Jamaica High School for the rest of my high school career. But after my senior year, after my senior year, or during my senior year, I got sick, right? I had pneumonia, and I missed like 3 or 4 months of school.
Oh, wow.
So what happened was I didn't finish. So I ended up getting left back. I had to come back and finish high school. So I ended up going to high school for a fifth year. But in New York City, you're not allowed, as a fifth year senior, you're not allowed to play. So what happened to me was I ended up playing with Riverside Church. I ended up playing with their kind of winter prep team, and got a chance to play against junior colleges and some schools like Fordham, their JV team, and John Jay, schools like that.
Yeah.
All along playing on that winter team, I played some AAU, because they, I don't know if they still do it, but the AAU was at that time they were happening even in the fall, So
Wow.
yeah, so we actually we went to Providence. We won a national championship that year. We beat Gauchos, which had Stephon Marbury, Felipe Lopez. They had Gary, was Mark Blunt. They had a ton of pros.
Stack team.
Yeah, Shamgard Wells, or he was Shamgard Wells at the time, but God Shamgard. And we had Kareem Reed. We had a Donald Foyle. I remember one situation. We were in Pittsburgh, and we were all leaving to go out and we were going to the gas station, get something from the gas station. And we all go knock on a Donald Foyle's room, see if he was going to come with us. And Donald was like, "Sorry guys, but I'm studying, Shakespeare or something." He was doing like Hamilton, or I don't know. I'm like, man, we trying to have fun, but this dude want to read Shakespeare right now. But Adana was one of those guys that took his academics very seriously. So even though he was which you should, even though he was out playing AAU, he still was getting his schoolwork done.
That's
so
very rare for a kid that age.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up playing with Riverside that winter because I couldn't play high school ball, and was able to get a lot of looks that way.
Mm-hmm.
But what really kind of like jump started my recruiting when I was in North Carolina, my sophomore year, we had a guy named Edric Bohannon on our team, and
Okay.
he was from California, and he ended up being like a McDonald's All American. Played for the Knicks, But when I was a sophomore, and when he was there, he had like Jimmy Black. Jimmy Black was at South Carolina at the time. Roy Williams was at Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Anderson down at St. John's was at Arkansas. So he had all of those schools were coming to see him play. So when he was coming to our practice to see him play, I was a sophomore on the team, and they were like, "Wow!" So my first letters were, I think, from like Providence, Arkansas, and I think like maybe like West Virginia or Creighton or something like that.
Wow.
And so then all of a sudden I kind of that was just me as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to after my junior year, I went to 5 Star. And I had never really been to camps. I was content playing in my neighborhood. I had started playing like basketball in terms of like playing organized basketball. I started playing late. I wasn't like in every tournament. I was just happy playing in my neighborhood, playing with my friends. I remember one of my guy that I looked up to actually, basketball wise. He came and saw me playing in the back of a school on like a crate, and I was playing. We were playing like 3-on-3 or something. And he came and he called me to pull me to the side. He was like, "Yo, such and such ain't playing. You got to go out and play in these tournaments so everybody can see you and get your name out there." He's like, "You ain't gonna be able to be all city playing, in the back of the school."
Yeah.
So, but again, I was just one of those guys that I just love to play basketball. I wasn't playing for like, because I didn't know about, scholarships and
Yeah. You're just hooping for the love of hooping.
right. I was just playing for the love.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to 5 Star, and Coach Thompson from Jamaica High School. I went to Jamaica. So Coach Thompson from Jamaica was the first one to kind of put me on to like the camps. So he was like, you got to get the 5 Star, because I had a really good year. I averaged like 20 some points a game.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you got to get the 5 Star.
And back then, 5 Star was, man, that was the
right. That was the camp that you had to go to.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those Honesdale sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I went to the one right after. So they had the first session, which Wojciechowski, coach at Marquette, he went to. I think he was the MVP. And I went to the second session, and I ended up winning best playmaker, and I ended up winning MVP of the camp. And so, on the 5 Star MVP list is pretty legendary.
Yeah.
It was a good feeling to have my name on a trophy with all of those,
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Fame players. So after that camp, when I got back to school, so I went to that camp, and then also, at that time in August, 5 Star had their camp where they had like most of the New York City guys from Philly, guys from DC, Baltimore, that area. They would all come to the camp. So at that camp, I'm in with all of the Stephon Marbury and Kareem Reed and Shamgard, and it was Zindon Hamilton, Tim Thomas, all of these guys were there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember exactly who was doing the lecture, but I remember when Garfinkel, God bless the dead, Howard Garfinkel came to me and told me, he said, "Listen, we're gonna have this guy's gonna be doing a lecture, and you, Stephon, are gonna be the guards, and Zindon and I think Norman Nolan were gonna be the big guys. They're gonna be doing some pick and roll." And I remember saying to myself, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, just a few months ago, I wasn't, nobody knew who I was. And now, I was getting opportunity to be, called on to demonstrate in the camp when they had, a ton of great players there. So after that camp, after those 2 camps, my recruiting I came at the school, and my coach had like 2 boxes of letters, where I had tons of, UNLV. I think Raleigh Massimino was the coach at the time. All of the Big E schools. I had some ACC schools. It was a ton of recruiting.
Garfinkel's word was gold back then. If he vouched for you, people were going to start recruiting you, even if they never saw you play.
Right.
I remember it was like 2006 when I was a sophomore in high school,
and it was one of his last years. You know, he was getting old, but he was still doing it. I remember him saying, one of the guys who had no looks going into it, one camp MVP, was in the All-Star game, and I remember him making that comment. He said, "Okay, you got no recruitment going on. That's going to change." And sure enough, that kid signed Division I shortly after. So yeah, he was so big in the recruiting game, man. He could really put your name on the map.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. As you said, his word was what they went off of. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, so I had a ton of recruitment, and then I couldn't play because I was sick and I couldn't play high school, so I ended up playing the AAU. I ended up
Did
playing
that
with.
affect your recruitment at all?
Um, I don't really remember if it affected my recruitment or not because I was still playing and I was still playing like the AAU
Mm-hmm.
circuit. So it really I would say no. It didn't
Okay.
really affect my recruiting at all. So I remember I went to see Seton Hall against St. Bonaventure's with Mr. Lorch, and Shandu McNeil was playing at the time. So we went to see Shandu because he was playing against Seton Hall. And I remember sitting with Mr. Lorch, and uh, Coach Carlissimo came over, and he was like, um, I just want to let you know that, we're going to recruit the hell out of you and da da da. And, that's kind of like how everything kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so, after that happened, and I played my that year with Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
It was time to make a college decision, and I knew that I wanted to kind of stay close to home, just because I had kind of been close to family and friends, and I wanted to give them opportunity to see me play
Mm-hmm.
in college. So my last three choices were Rhode Island, Seton Hall, and Syracuse. And I knew I wasn't going to Syracuse because it was a huge school. You know, crazy. The snow went up there and all
Oh
that.
my
So
God,
I,
yeah.
yeah. So I knew I wasn't going to Syracuse. And my godfather lived in Rhode Island in Providence.
Mm-hmm.
I like Coach Skinner, was a really cool guy. And then I knew some of the guys on the team. Abdul Fox was a guy that I knew he was from Queens. So I went on my visit, liked it, but they wanted me to make a decision before I left because they had another guy coming in after me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I wanted to take my other visits. So the guy that they had coming after me was Tyson Wheeler, who ended up going there and having a great career. Played in the NBA, I think. Also, now he's coaching at UMass. So Tyson had a great career. They ended up going to the Elite Eight. Him and Katina Mobley was a
Mm-hmm.
great backcourt. So they ended up making a great decision. I think I made a great decision also. I remember Coach Sully came to pick me up. It was like a Friday, I want to say. I think it was a Friday. Finished school. He came to pick me up. Again, Seton Hall was pretty close. Came to pick me up. Went on my visit. Loved it. Got a chance to watch practice. I like Coach Carlesmo's style. He was his guards always did well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in system. He had a few. He had Oliver Taylor was a Queens guy. Also wore number 20. Like I wore number 20. So he did really well. He had Gerald Green also was a guard that did really well. Then he had guys like Danny Hurley that was in school at the time. Um, that was in school at the time. That was also Brian Caver and guys like that. So I thought that that kind of style would fit my game. I was a point guard my whole career, and coming up. But when I started playing with Riverside that year, I was more of a shooting guard. And because I was able to shoot the ball well, and we had a really good point guard in Kareem Reed, who ended up becoming
Uh-huh.
McDonald All-American, had a great
Yeah.
career in Arkansas. So I ended up becoming a two guard. So I was kind of recruited as a combo guard. And I remember Danny Hurley had some issues the year before I got there. So Coach Carlesmo was telling me that, if they weren't sure if he was going to come back or not. So they were saying if he didn't come back, then I would have opportunity to be a point guard. But if he did come back, then I would be like a combo guard. So yeah, I made that decision to go to Seton Hall. Again, a lot of it was because I wanted to be close to home. Playing in the Big East was a great opportunity. I grew up watching the Big East, being from New York City. And then also, I thought that it was a really, really good school. It was a small campus, kind of fit my personality. So I made that decision. But again, I always say if I had to make that decision over again, I would go to Princeton just because, when you do go to a school, an Ivy League school, especially a school like Princeton, you have, and you get a degree from there, you have a great opportunity and you have a great network of people that can help you, later on in life. So definitely happy with this decision I made. Seton Hall was a great opportunity, great 4 years there. Met a lot of good people. Some of my best friends now are from Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely happy that I made that decision.
Can you run us through a few accolades that you came across and earned and achieved both as a team and individually while you were at Seton Hall?
Well, when I got to Seton Hall, we were down. We Coach Carlissimo, like the year that I was coming to Seton Hall, Coach Carlissimo called me. I remember summertime, called me and told me that he was going to take the job with the Portland Trailblazers.
Yep.
And he was saying that I think they tripled his salary, so he was just saying it was an offer he couldn't refuse.
Got to take that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we were kind of in the rebuilding stage. We didn't get a lot of accolades. My first year we went to NIT, and then my first 3 years I was coached by George Blaney, and then Coach Blaney was a really, really cool guy. I remember when he called me and told me that if I wanted to still come to Seton Hall, he wanted me to he would like to have me there. Really helped me out. I remember my first practice at Seton Hall, and I had a pretty good practice. He called me to the office and told me, he wanted me to play the same way I played that day. He wanted me to play that way. He didn't want me to look at as being a freshman. He wanted me to play my game. So Coach Blaney was a real cool guy, man. Helped me out a lot. So again, we didn't have a lot of accolades because we were kind of rebuilding. He was trying to get his kind of players in. So we went to NIT my first year, and then Coach Amica ended up coming in my last year and coached me at Seton Hall my last year. And we went to NIT again that year. Coach Amica, still pretty cool with him. Still talk to him pretty often. So not really a lot of accolades as a team, but as a player, I won like male athlete of the year at school. I was on an all academic team.
Wow.
I was a second team. My senior year, I was a second team all Big East. So those are some. I scored over 1,000 points. I think I'm tied for the most steals in the game. I think it's 8. I think I'm tied for the most steals in the game at Seton Hall. So those are some of the things that I was able to accomplish. On and off the court.
Yeah, so that was a very impressive individual career. Even faced with bringing in a lot of new coaches and you got a kind of the long end of the stick because sometimes guys come in and they want to change everything, bring new players. I think that's also a testament to you and your game that everybody still wanted to build the team around what you were doing from the guard spot. So now all of a sudden it's a shift, right? So you're going from playing college basketball to, I'm assuming, wanting to really continue your career. But how does that happen for you? Did you start going on workouts? Did you get attention from an agent? How did you dive into the professional basketball world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I think it was maybe my sophomore junior year. John Morton, who was now an assistant coach at St. Peter's with Shaheen Holloway, who was my backcourt partner my junior and senior year at Seton Hall. John played in the NBA. He was on a Final Four team for Seton Hall. He was playing in Spain, and I remember him coming back and telling me, like, listen, if you don't get an opportunity to play in the NBA, you want to go overseas and try to find a country where you can play 10 or 15 years. That's what you want to do. And that kind of stuck with me. So when I graduated in 1998, the NBA had a lockout that year. And so I didn't get a chance. I was supposed to go to the Nets camp.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to go to camp, and my agent, Andy Miller, and I had knew Andy through a few people, and he told me basically, he asked me if I wanted to stay and wait for the season to start back, or if I wanted to go overseas and make some money. So of course I chose to go overseas and make some money.
Mm-hmm.
Andy had a lot of contacts, and he had a partner in Bob Stanley, who is Bob is an American guy that lives over in Brussels, and
Okay.
he was like his European contact, and
Yep.
so I actually ended up going to the Czech Republic, right out of college, and I don't know if you remember the guy Kevin Norris. He was
Oh,
I played against Kevin because he was the point guard at Miami at the time. He's from
okay.
Baltimore, DC. I don't remember which we're at right now, but I think Kevin is actually now on the staff at the University of Central Florida, maybe
Okay.
with Johnny Dawkins. So Kev was in the Czech Republic on a team that I eventually ended up going to, but he didn't like it, so he ended up leaving. So when he left, his assistant coach contacted Andy and was like, "Listen, Kev is leaving his spot, so you got a player. They looking for a point guard." So he told me about it. Of course, I didn't really know about the Czech Republic. Of course, I remember when it was Czechoslovakia. So
Right.
I didn't know that two countries had split.
Yeah.
Of course, I had to, I went and checked it on the map, checked it out. I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. I didn't know that Kevin was there and he ended up leaving. I didn't know that until I got there. So I remember, I think I got there like on August 15th or something like that. And you're in the Czech Republic, so you know how the Czech Republic looks on Sunday. On Sunday, nothing is going on, right?
Yeah. Shut down.
Right. So I came on a Saturday. Now I was in Novicin, which is like a small city village of like 20,000 people, right? So I get there, I go to sleep all Saturday, wake up on Sunday, and I was in like a hotel. They call it the Bazin, because it was actually where the gym was at. There was a big pool,
Right? Yeah.
and they had a hotel. You played there, right?
No, I just know Bosin is the word for pool, so I was
Oh yeah,
assuming
yeah.
it's pool.
Yeah. So so I get there. As I said, sleep all day, wake up Sunday. It's like 3 channels on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
All check. Nobody called me. I didn't know, where I was gonna get something to eat from.
Yeah. Nowhere.
Right. So I didn't have any, so I go downstairs to the like restaurant, and of course don't know any English, nobody there. I don't speak Czech.
Yeah.
It was so I'm like, man. So I finally got me something to eat, got some chicken and French fries. Go back upstairs, sitting bored out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I go call Coach Amica. I like, listen, I got to get out of here. I said, I can't do it. So he was like, no, stay, stick it out.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, it's gonna get better. And that was a Sunday. So Monday, of course, we started practice. Get down there. None of the players wanted to speak to me. I found out after a while that some of the guys spoke English, and again, some of the guys didn't. But the guys that spoke English didn't want to speak to me at the time.
Yeah, they're real shy at first, standoffish. They gotta warm up to you and get to know you here.
Yeah, exactly. So started playing. Ended up meeting a guy that spoke English,
Mm-hmm.
and then introduced me to his friend that had spent a year in Texas going to high school.
Okay.
I ended up meeting these two guys, and they helped me out so much. Martin and Mike were their names. They helped me out so much. I ended up, they ended up taking me to get pizza and stuff like that. So that was kind of my introduction to being a professional. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody's dream is to play in an NBA. But the good thing is that if you don't achieve that goal, then you have to be able to pivot and do something else. One of the things that I did want to do when I came out of college was I wanted to, before the NBA, when the NBA had the lockout, I was thinking about, you know, I had studied criminal justice. I had wanted to work for the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
I called up the FBI right before, I was going to go overseas, and I asked them, kind of what was the criteria. And, you needed to be 23 years old. I was 22 at the time. I was turning 23 in December. You had to have 3 years work experience. And of course, I didn't have any work experience because I was in college.
Yep.
And also I played basketball most of my summers, so I didn't get a chance to do any kind of working. So they told me that if you go overseas and you play professional basketball, that counts as work experience. So they were like, listen, if you go overseas and play 3 years, then you can come back and see us. So kind of I thought was what was going to be my plan, but because I love the game so much, once I got overseas, I enjoyed it. Living in a new country, all the experiences that I had. So I ended up, staying over there 20 years.
Yeah. But you also got that perfect personality to be overseas because you're very mellow, you're well spoken, you're adaptable, you got high character. You're somebody who's easy to approach. Sometimes guys are not successful overseas because they're kind of on guard the whole time. They won't open up to new experiences, new people. They're too kind of afraid to make mistakes and be vulnerable. And I think you've got a real kind of, like I said, real mellow attitude where you're not afraid to go put yourself out there and try something new, and also be around new people. And I think that you're somebody that people flock to, just kind of knowing your personality.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't by design. That's just like who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that of course that helped me, because when you overseas and you're by yourself, especially at the time it was 1998 when I first went overseas. Internet was just starting out, right? Like
Especially here.
I didn't have a laptop. I had to go to the internet cafes.
Yeah.
And I remember my first few phone bills were like $700, $800 because I was just on the phone all the time, and
Homesick.
yeah, I was homesick, so what I did understand and know that though was that you have to kind of mingle and try to get a chance to know people, and learn something about the place where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
That I think a lot of people that go overseas and don't do well is because I've played with a lot of American guys that play a whole season somewhere and they never want to try to learn the language. They never, they expect that everybody is supposed to speak English.
Yeah.
And as you said, they're kind of, it kind of, it lends to that stigma we have of Americans being arrogant,
Mm-hmm.
and when guys come over, they help out the stereotype.
Yeah, they stay in their element. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone.
Right. And again, that's, as you said, you got to be willing to try new things. You got to be willing to make mistakes. Like, when I started to try to learn the language, it was like, people were laughing at me when I was talking. They still laugh when I say, we don't have, doesn't matter how much we speak Czech or learn Czech. We have a different accent. It's just like,
Yeah.
you hear a foreigner in the US.
Yep.
So, but I was okay with that. I wasn't afraid to like put myself out there, and that was one of the reasons why I wrote my book that I wrote was because by me being overseas so long, I saw so many things, and so many people would contact me about certain situations. I just thought that, what, well, let me just put this in a book because I think this can help some people, that's trying to understand what it's like to be overseas or to play overseas, because I always say like basketball stopped being fun when it became a job, when I started getting paid for it. I you know I can play basketball, or when I was playing I could play basketball anywhere, anytime. I wasn't one of those guys that was chasing a certain type of league. A lot of guys they come overseas and they want to play. They want to play in the EuroLeague. They want to play in these cups. But for me, it wasn't about that. I was making a living, good enough living, and I was able to play basketball. And that was what was important to me. It wasn't important to play in this league, that league, and that league. You know, I was always able to sign a contract before I left. I remember after my first 2 years in Norwegian, my agent, the team wanted to resign me. My agent was like, "No, I got a job for you in Israel." So I said, "All right." I told him, I said, "No, I'm not gonna resign." That was in May before I went home, and then it was October, and I was still home waiting for opportunity. And my agent told me he had something for me in Israel.
Yeah.
That was a lesson for me that once I got back playing, I always said that if I had an opportunity to sign a contract before I leave, I'm signing the contract, you know, because then my summers can be,
Stress free.
free without worry about where I'm going to be, where I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And that always happened. I always played well enough that some team, either the team that I was playing on or another team in the league or whatever, offered me a contract. So that's what I did. That's why I was able to play as long as I played in one country, was because, you know, that team was always willing to offer me another deal, and I always took it, you know, and that was, again, that was a lesson for me. And I think that's one thing for guys that can, you know, guys that's trying to play and trying to get overseas, is that if you do get into a situation where, because there's so many people out here trying to play basketball,
Right.
there's so many people trying to go overseas. Everybody thinks they can go overseas and play, and they're only a certain number of spots, right? Even though every country kind of has their own rules in terms of how many foreigners a team can have, you know, there's still only a certain number of spots that they can have.
Right.
So I would advise guys that, you know, if you're in a situation where, you know, the money is good and you happy, you know, the grass is not always green on the other side. You know, I know a lot of guys that turn down deals, and then in September they call me like, "Yo, Al, you think you can get me on a team?" I'm like, "Yo, we got somebody already. You know, it's too late. You know." So that's one thing. You know, guys, people are always chasing money. It's not always about the money. It's about, you know, being happy, having longevity. I had opportunity to play, you know, 15 years in a row or something, or 13 years in a row, where a lot of guys probably play 1 or 2 years and then, you know, miss 3 or 4 months, then, you know, sign somewhere, then, you know, miss a year. But I was able to play consistently for a long time because of that.
Yeah, which says a lot about you too, because a lot of these teams, whether it's in the Czech Republic or in a different country, different league, they want to go with like a sure bet. You know, somebody that they've seen before. They don't always want to take risks and bring in a new guy that's never been in the league. And so, you know, you kind of being somebody also that was doing well enough for not only your own team but other teams to continue to be interested in. I think it also goes back to your character. You're also somebody that they knew would kind of come in and not be a problem, fit and adjust well. You've been in the country, you've been in, been in the culture, and so that says a lot. Like once you get in a foot in the door, stay in it, stay in it. There's so many guys that, like you said, I personally know many of those guys too. They went in and they're like, I'm looking for a higher deal or this and that. Or I want to go to a different league. Whereas somebody else in that league was the only opportunity they had, and then they get a gap in the resume, and then it's kind of all goes crumbling down from there. So I think that's a real pearl of wisdom you just kind of gave us. And also another thing that jumps out about me is the book that you wrote. I remember I was lucky enough to get a signed copy from you. I still have that to this day. But it landed a lot of good information. But also, if you look at it on the flip side, it was a really good way to invest some of your free time that you had being overseas and to kind of create another stream of revenue for you besides basketball. And not only did you do it with the book, but you did it with the clothing line, the Euro Game Gear. Can you talk a little bit about that, like utilizing your time? Because so many guys, they get overseas and they just stay in their room, their apartment. They don't go experience anything. They don't do anything with their time that's going to set them up after basketball. What was your thought process? How did you get that stuff going?
Yeah, I mean, you have so much time when you're overseas, and I think probably I had lot less time because I was, as you said, I was one of those approachable people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a personal person, so a lot of people did approach me, and I have a ton of friends overseas, so I did
Sure.
chance to you know, go to people's houses and hang out a lot. But the book, my wife actually really pushed me to do the book because I had a bunch of stuff written down. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I like to just write ideas down. Even
Mm-hmm.
now, I just write stuff down. And I had a bunch of stuff written down, and my wife was like, "You gotta." I'm not even sure she probably wasn't my wife at the time, but she was like, "You gotta put this out. You gotta put this out." So that's what I did. And I was writing during those times, like we have those. I played in ditching, so when you're in ditching and you got to go to Opava or Oshawa, that's like a 6 hour
Yeah.
ride. So you have a lot of time. And then also when during your practices and stuff. And again, the internet wasn't the social media wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
heavy as it is now. So, and I'm not really a big social media guy anyway, but I still had time. So I just actually used that wisely. I think that's one of the things you have to, like, if you want to be successful, you have to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to use your hours wisely. And then the clothing line was just, I was actually thinking of starting like a t-shirt line.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy that I played overseas with, I played against him. I didn't play with him, but we hung out a lot because at the time he was playing in Usti. I was playing in Ditching, and it's like 15 minutes from each other, 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes. So I would go and he didn't have a car, so I would go, and when I was going to Prague, I would stop by, pick him up, and he was originally from the Bronx, so we just actually, we had became cool. We became pretty cool. So he
Mm-hmm.
was also thinking of starting a line, but he wasn't playing anymore at the time. He was actually in the U.S. Um, so we kind of brainstormed and came up with a name. I actually found a guy in a guy in Ditching to do the logo for me.
Okay.
Um, so we kind of did that, and then I started with like the headbands.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were cool.
The league actually banned the headbands. They didn't want me wearing a headband. It was one of the referees over there who told me that I couldn't wear the headband. So because I think I started wearing the headbands one year, and then the next year they put something in the rule book because like every referee was telling me something different. One referee was telling me it was because of the color, because the first one I wore was like a neon green bright one with the big logo in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said anything, and then as the games would go on, referee would say, "Hey, you can't wear that." I would ask why. He would say, "Yeah, because of the color." So I would go change the color. He'd be like, "Oh, it's okay." Then one referee would tell me I can't wear it because the logo is too big. So then I end up changing the logo, just making the logo smaller. So yeah, I just started with headbands, and then we started. We got into getting t-shirts, and
Mm-hmm.
I once I started coaching, I wasn't as involved because the coaching just took so much time.
Of course.
My partner Damien still kind of kept everything rolling, and because he's a coach himself, and he does a lot of individual workouts and stuff in North Carolina, so he was able to kind of keep it going. But I want to get back and start getting more involved. I actually have some ideas we were talking about the other day, how to push the company a little bit further. So
Yeah, definitely. No, I remember seeing like pictures of you in your book or other things of you with that headband and the big Game Gear logo. Man, that was awesome marketing.
yep,
Especially to other import players, like wanting to be a part of that culture. That was very smart on your part, and also, like I said, a good use of your time trying to make something happen, some type of income stream. And also, to kind of go back a little bit, where we touched on, hey, it's every kid's dream to, play professional basketball, to play in the NBA. Okay, even though you were not in the NBA, you were in the Czechs version of the NBA, and you were a superstar to these people. You played in so many different cities for so many different years. Anytime I have a basketball conversation, your name comes up. I mean, you are an absolute legend in the game here. So, you were a superstar in your own right, and there's nothing to take away from that. NBA, no NBA, you left your mark on the game and this country, and a lot
Yeah,
of people have a lot of great things to say about you.
yeah, and again, I think that a lot of times when when you are whatever you're doing, again, one of my grandmother always used to say, whatever you do, you should try to be the best at it.
Mhm.
Not just do it to do it. So whenever I played, I gave it my all. I was never. I mean, there was a lot of. I was never afraid to, you know, take last second shots, make or miss.
Mhm.
I think I was pretty good teammate. And again, as you said, I'm a personable guy, so a lot of people were drawn to me, and I'm not the type of person. It doesn't really matter what you do or who you are. I kind of treat everybody the same,
Yes.
and I think that kind of resonated with people. So,
Yes, for sure.
I definitely, again, as I said, I didn't have as much free time as a lot of people because of the type of person I was, and I got a chance to meet a lot of good people and get a chance to meet a lot of different families.
Hmm.
Got involved with some charities and stuff like that. So, definitely, the Czech Republic, I always call it my second home. Again, I have some property there, so I'm always going back and forth. I actually just
Hmm.
came back from the Czech Republic. My wife is from the Czech Republic. My daughter was born there, so I'll always have a connection to the Czech Republic, and I'm happy that I was able to. It's funny, my wife was just telling me a story that she was in I don't know, one of the T-Mobile or something, and she was trying to get me a SIM card because I
Hmm.
lost my SIM card and my Czech SIM card. So she was saying that there was a guy who was a mixed guy. Also, he was working there. So when he came in, naturally they kind of went. She went to him and they started talking. And this guy used to play for USK, but I
Okay.
think just the youth team. Not I
Uh-huh.
don't
Uh-huh.
professional. And of course, she's getting, she's talking whatever, and she had to say her name, and he was like, "You're not by any chance related to L. Sanders?" And she was like, "Well, I'm yeah, that's my husband," and he was like, "No way, no way," Anyway, long story short, I needed to be there in order to get the whatever I needed, the SIM card, because I needed to fill out some papers. But he gave it to her. He let her get it because
Yeah,
he knew I was like an actual person, right? Like,
that's
so
a celebrity hookup there.
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what year was it exactly that you ended your career in the Czech?
It was December 2015. It was my birthday. Actually, I was playing against Colleen on TV
Hmm.
and tearing my rotator cuff, swiping down at the ball, and I was still planning to play. I
Hmm.
was rehabbing, and you know, and then we lost a game. We lost a game against Opawa at home, and our coach at the time, his wife was sick. He was going through a lot. It was a lot of stress on him, and
Hmm.
we weren't winning, or we were losing games we were expected to win. So
Hmm.
resigning. And management called me in the office and asked me if I wanted to take over, and I said for sure, and
Hmm.
yeah. So my last game was on my birthday, December 14th, 2015.
Wow. And so it was like you kind of stumbled into coaching there. Was that always going to be your plan, your path eventually, or did that kind of open your mind to it?
Well, the year before, I was a player assistant,
Hmm.
and I was planning on that was gonna be my last year playing.
Hmm.
I was going to be assistant coach the following year. I wouldn't say that I always wanted to coach. I like to scout. I like to watch players and kind of say what they're good at, what they need to work on,
Yeah. Yeah.
how good are they. So I actually took a scouting and general managers course online and got a certificate for it because I really wanted to be a scout. Um, but I think it's all kind of interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
scout, coaching, and then when I did become that player assistant, and it was fun, like strategizing. It was fun trying to create, offense, trying to make your team a good defensive team. So all of those things, were pretty fun and interesting. And it was all basketball, something that I had did all my life. Like I knew the game. And I think because I played a long time and played in kind of different eras, it helped me out a lot. And also I think me playing as long as I did, and the longer you play, you kind of lose all your athleticism, your speed, quickness, and you got to start to think more. So I was,
true.
I played a lot of years basically using my brain, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that helped me out a lot, in terms of getting into coaching because I knew I knew what worked and what didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of defenses, I know how to expose defenses because I did that as a point guard. Um, I know which offenses I like, because again I ran offenses as a point guard. So it was kind of a natural kind of thing to get into coaching. I didn't think I would be a head coach that quick. But looking back at it, I think it was kind of the best way to kind of just learn on the fly. Um,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get into situations where they have a head coach and then they just basically copy what the head coach does.
It's
And they,
true.
they put a little bit of their twist on things. But I didn't have anybody to copy because I basically had to start or do everything, myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had assistant coach, so we did some collaborating. But I remember the first call was after I left that office. I called Coach Amica and told him, and he was like, "Listen, take it. Take it." He said, "You do it." He said, "Listen, you know the game. You're a smart guy." He said, "You're going to do great." Um, he said, "Listen, I'll tell you one thing. The legendary Larry Brown told me, Hall of Fame coach Larry Brown. He
Yep.
said, only teach what you know." He was like, "Listen, I can't teach the triangle offense because I don't know it." He said, "You got to only teach what you know." And that's what I did. I went off of basically everything that I felt,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of some of the coaches that I had before. I had a book about, a notebook about this thick of a lot of different plays and a lot of different sayings and stuff from different coaches
Mm-hmm.
I used, but I really relied on Coach Amick a lot because he was able, he was whenever I needed, he always took my call and helped me out when I had different questions and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was again, I didn't expect to be a head coach that quick, but it really helped me out. And then also I think I was coaching, I was coaching guys that were 36, 37 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was coaching some experienced guys. I coached, Yitka Welsh, who, played in the
Mm-hmm.
NBA, second
Yep.
check in the NBA.
Yep.
Um, and I coach a guy named Shutis. His name is not Shutis, but we call him Shutis Radik Nechas, who was a really smart guy, was defensive player of the year a number of years, played for Nimberg. Um, so I think coaching guys like that, and also some of the American guys that I coach, it really kind of accelerated my growth as a coach because you have to really know what you're talking about. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know the game. One thing I always say the difference between professionals and college players is that when you come and you have a tactic plan with professionals,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to question your, why you're going to do it this way. Isn't it better
Yeah.
this
Yep.
way? College players are just gonna, college players just say they just put their head down, they do what you say.
Right.
So when you coaching a professional guy, you have to really know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, they're gonna see it right away.
Yeah.
So I think having coach guys like that really put like 10 years of my coaching career, and that's why I said that I wasn't as involved in like the Euro game gear as much because when I started coaching, it was like a full-time thing.
Oh,
When you're playing, you practice those 2 hours, you go home, you totally forget about everything. But when
mhm.
you're coaching, you have to prepare for those 2 hours. Then after those 2 hours, you have to analyze those 2 hours. What
Yep.
what was, so there was so much more time you had to spend as a coach. And again, when you're coaching overseas, especially in the Czech Republic, where you don't have the opportunity to have 2, 3, 4 assistant coaches where you can kind of delegate and give them, I had one assistant coach. So, we kind of, we were busy, and again, I wasn't in the office a lot. I did my work at home. But I mean, it was really time consuming, especially at the beginning. Like I went from like rehabbing on Wednesday to running my first practice on Thursday, at 3
Still
o'clock.
injured.
Yeah. So it was like I had never ran a practice before, but the first thing I told them was like, listen, I just want us to compete. You know what I mean? So the first drill I did was the wall rebounding drill, where there's no calls, no fouls. I just want us to compete. 2 teams against each other, threw the ball opponent, and then I had them compete. And that's what I did. That's what I kind of based all my stuff on, was just trying to get guys to compete. Because I think a lot of times when you're undermanned, you're not as talented or whatever. If you compete, that makes up for a lot of things. So that's what I try to do. And then in terms of like coaching, I really wanted to play like a fast tempo. I wanted to get up and down the court. I that's one thing Coach Hamilton said. He said, "Listen, you gotta get those guys getting up and down. You got to get them playing defense, because all of these things you do as a team. You can't run up and down and do it by yourself. You can't play defense by yourself. So, you gotta be able to get those guys to do that as a team." And then one of the other things he told me was real key. Was he was like, "Listen, you got to identify who the leaders are." And I don't mean like the captain. He said, you got to identify who is the leader, who are the guys going to rally behind, and you got to get those guys on your side. You got to get those guys, on your side. So that's what I did. I went to the guys that, our captain wasn't our leader. Our captain was a quiet guy, smart guy, but he wasn't vocal. He didn't, he basically got the captaincy because of his age.
Right.
I went to the guy who was the leader, and he was like, "Listen, we got your back, man. We're gonna help you out." And we were in 5th or 6th place, and we finished that year with a bronze medal. We ended up winning. We won the Czech Cup that year. That was the first time in like 22 years we won the Czech Cup. So we had some nice success. While I was coaching there.
Wow. Yeah. No kidding. So getting that buy-in and getting teams to compete, I mean, that's a huge part of coaching. It starts with that stuff, because if you don't have guys that are willing to compete, then you could have the greatest schemes in the world, but it's all for nothing. Yeah. So after, obviously you had a great end to that season, and that summer is actually where you and I linked up for the first time. You were gracious enough to come down with a little bit of off time you had, to come down from New York to, this small, tiny gym in Massachusetts to do, a little pro exposure camp for me. And, to this day, I'm endlessly grateful for that. You really helped elevate the status of that camp by being there. And you offered a lot of great wisdom and did a great job that weekend. And then, it's been great to obviously stay in touch with you. So then I've been able to kind of keep up with your coaching career through that point. And even when I got here in the Czech, I was still watching you kind of wrap up your last season. So you ended up spending, you said, what, 3.5 seasons?
Yep.
With Pardubice?
Yep.
Okay. So, and you ended up doing really well with them, having some very talented players too. I remember you had a really good young, I think he was Croatian, a left-handed, tall 3-man. He was really good.
Yeah, he actually just put something on Instagram today, because he's not re-signing with the team. He did a 1.5 years there with them, so he just actually put that on Instagram today. But yeah, I mean, I was shocked that you reached out to me. I didn't think anybody is following what's going on in the Czech Republic, right? So that was definitely cool coming. That was my first time ever doing it. Because again, it was my first year coaching, so that was a great experience. Got a chance to kind of see what those camps about. I actually did it one, I think, a year or two after that, but that was the first one. And then also was getting a chance to go up to Mass and kind of see how things are done up there. But I mean, remember we went out to dinner that night, and
yeah,
that was cool. So I mean, you had some other guys coaching there that were coaching overseas. So that was good. It was good opportunities to see again how those camps work because that was my first experience. And then again, as you said, after that, we kind of just been in contact, been in the same places. And again, when you came to Clottevy, I was like, wow, man, Chris is he's getting around, man. He's doing his thing. So
Trying to be like you.
hey, got to keep grinding, man. That's what it's about.
So then now, what was the process with kind of leaving the Czech, leaving the pro side of things in Europe, and then going back, to the States to NCAA Division I Binghamton University?
Yeah, I think that we just came to a mutual agreement that it'll be, good for both sides. The team kind of was stagnant in terms of we had won or we had the bronze medal for a few years in a row. And then I think we ended up finishing fifth that year.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to part ways, and I got an opportunity to come here to Binghamton to be assistant coach, which has been eye-opening experience for me. Again, I haven't been involved in college basketball since I was playing.
Right.
So to come back and kind of see how things are done is cool. Totally different system. When you coaching professionals and coaching college kids, it's totally different. Knowledge of the game, preparation. Just kids got to go to school here. You don't have opportunity to practice all the time. When you're a professional, that's your job. You can do it whenever you want. So a lot of differences. Again, as I said, professionals going to question a lot more than college kids will.
Yep.
But again, I think basketball is basketball in general. So if you've coached basketball, played basketball in this place, you can do it in anywhere. But definitely, it's totally different being an assistant coach. You don't get a chance to do things your way. Coach has a philosophy. He's been a head coach over 20 years. So he does things his way, and I'm learning how to help him. How to give him information, how to give him input. Just kind of learning the things that he values. So this year was kind of just a learning experience. I think hopefully if we have a season, hopefully we can have a much better season than we had last year or this past season. But I'm excited. I definitely would like to be a head coach over here in the U.S. In college or NBA or some capacity. And not that I will be. It's just a matter of time. So it's about networking. It's about improving on your skills. It's about improving running an organization. College basketball, the lifeline is recruiting, right? So you got to be able to recruit. Good thing is that I have some networks, over in Europe, so I have opportunity to recruit, both in Europe and here in the US. So that helps out a lot. So I definitely, think that me coming back was the right time. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she has opportunity to go to school and get some experiences from over here in the U.S. Which with all of the things that's going on now, I think it's a great time for her to get a chance to kind of see. She doesn't understand everything that's going on, but in here in Binghamton, I took her downtown to some of the protests that they had. Took her down there to see it, just so she knows what's going on. So yeah, it's good. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, definitely. There's one other thing I want to jump back to, but before that, I have a girlfriend here in the Czech Republic, and have kind of always wanted to talk to people about this type of topic. Now, so when obviously your wife was living in the Czech Republic when you met her, and your daughter growing up in the Czech Republic at first, but yet was she only receiving English from you? How did she grow up? Was she learning bilingually from the beginning, or was she more Czech, speaking more Czech than English? And then now she's obviously in the States, so it must be a little overwhelming for her.
Yeah, when we decided that I was going to speak to her in English, my wife was going to speak to her in Czech. So how she that's how she started. And of course, by her living in the Czech Republic, obviously Czech is her first language, is the most dominant language. But it's shift in the year that she's here, right? So now, like when I was over in Czech, she would speak she would speak to me because I understand Czech, so sometimes she would speak to me in Czech and I would answer her in English. But now she's like 90% speaking English,
Wow.
because she's been here and nobody is going to speak to her in Czech in school,
Right.
And that was also a big adjustment for her because she she was used to speaking Czech most of the time, and now she came here and she had to be full-time English. So that was a big adjustment for her. And also the school system is different, right? Like at 5 years old in the Czech Republic, you're still at like the kindergarten where you are playing and playing with toys, going out for walks and stuff.
Yep.
Here in the States, she's doing work, so she's coming to class and she goes to Catholic school, so it's a small setting. She comes to class, she sits down, and she has work on her desk already, right? So she has to do that work. So it was an adjustment. She didn't like it because she went from and she had started school because they came in September because my wife was waiting to get her green card until they come over. So they came over in September. End of September 27th, they came over. October 1st, she started school. So she came straight from Czech, already was going a month to school over there, and coming here in the next 3 or 4 days, she had to switch into something else. So it was hard for her. And again, things that she was doing in school, she hadn't done. She never did, math, and she of course she knew how to count and all that ABCs. But she never did any of the things that they did. So she was behind. So a lot, the pandemic has really helped because I was able to be home with her and who was sending the work and we were doing it one-on-one and she picked it up pretty quickly. But because the teacher doesn't have opportunity to be one-on-one with her because she's in the class with a student. Right? So it was challenging. It was difficult. And now she speaks to my wife, and my wife wants to keep her Czech, right? So she speaks only in Czech, but she speaks. She answers my wife, or she talks to my wife. She speaks to her in English, and my wife doesn't like it. So she always, they have this sign on that they do when she's speaking to my wife and she's speaking English. My wife does this, and she changes to Czech, right? That's her sign that don't speak English, speak to Czech. But I also was telling my wife that she has to kind of let it happen like organically because when I was in Czech, I never told her name is Olivia. I never told Olivia when she was speaking to me in Czech. I never told her, "Hey, speak to me in English." I always just answered her in English, right? So, but my wife is really want her to keep her Czech because you know how it is over there. The school system and all of that stuff is free. You just got to pass the exam. So if she Czech, if she ever needs to go back and go to college for some reason or whatever, she'll be able to have the language and she wouldn't be that far behind. So we were even thinking about maybe having them go back and have her first few years of school, have that in the Czech, in Czech language so she can kind of get a good foundation of Czech because over here she's going to lose it. If she does another year over here, I think she probably won't be speaking Czech at all. It'll be full-time English. And my wife, she's against that. So, but yeah, we basically the English, the language was just, when she spoke to me or whoever. We had some Australian friends in Czech also that we hung out with a lot. Or the other Americans on the team, she spoke to them. She spoke to them in English, but yeah, most of the time it was in Czech.
Okay, so shifting gears back to a little bit more basketball. It's funny. I was listening to your story of being overseas and then the college thing. You were kind of explaining different sides of adversity. Like, so in Europe, right? They don't have the class. They've got more time. You can practice more during the day, more availability. It's their job. in the U.S., they've got school, you've got mandated hours by the NCAA you can't go over with practice, okay? But then you shift it a little bit and you look at other things. Your facilities in Binghamton are way better than the facilities you had in the Czech Republic. The staff you have to work with is way bigger than what you had in the Czech Republic. You have access now to other types of equipment, trainers and all this other types of stuff that is completely different. Can you talk a little bit about that side of things, the difference with being overseas compared to the States? Because a lot of young players, they go from playing at any level of college, and then they think they're going to have the same stuff when they go overseas.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big adjustment for me coming out, coming from Seton Hall, and we flew to our game every game, and we ate at the best restaurants, ate in the best hotels. And, you come to the Czech Republic, and we were bussing everywhere, and Seton Hall, they wash your clothes for you. Here you had to wash your own clothes. Guys are wearing the same practice gear for 2-3 days, smelling terrible.
Sometimes 2-3 weeks.
So so that was a big adjustment, but. Yeah, I mean it's totally different. Depends on where you go. You have some and part of it that we played in that big hockey arena. For my first couple years, it's an arena for like 10,000 people. So that was a nice arena. And then we switched it up. But I think most of your college universities, because of it's a university, are going to have better facilities and more resources, just because they have more resources. They have more money. You're gonna have those things are going to be a lot better in terms of the resources. But so for guys that's coming out of school, coming out of college, you have to be aware of that. And again, that's part of not being stuck in your ways, and that's part of adjusting. As part of trying to adapt to different cultures. Because again, everywhere you go, it's going to be different, And when we had a guy last year that was he went to Ohio State. Iowa State. Iowa State is it's Big 12, right? So that's big time, So he see our stuff. He's like what is this? It's funny because I talked to that kid. I talked to him the other day, and he was like, yo, man, if I know what I know now, man, we'd have won a championship, because he was so headstrong and just trying to do things his way and wanted to be how it was at Iowa State. And I was just trying to explain to him, couldn't get through to him that, it's different over here. It's not the same. But that's what guys have to be aware of, that, it's going to be different. I mean, you probably, unless you're in a situation where you're going to go play on a EuroLeague team, you're probably going to be in a situation where the facilities and resources are nowhere near what you had in college. They're still good enough for you to be successful, but you got to be willing to adjust and adapt. But yeah, I mean, having 4 coaches to bounce things off of is a lot. It's a lot better than having one, right, to bounce it off. So definitely, I like that part of being over here, and definitely looking forward to the opportunity to be able to run those things, as a head coach.
Right. So now, with your assistant coaching role, that can mean a lot of different things. So what exactly are you specializing, like in player development, scouting, recruiting, all, a mixture of everything? What's your roles in Binghamton?
Yeah, my 2 primary roles is recruiting and player development. That's what coach wanted, when he brought us in.
I can see that.
Of course, I have to scout. We have every coach, every assistant coach gets a certain amount of games that you have to scout, and you got to break down film and all that stuff. But the player development and recruiting is really what coach brought us here to do. I was working with the point guards, so I had 3 guys basically that I was in charge of, right, the player development side. So and again, that was easy because that's what I was, right? I was a point guard, so it's not much, I mean, most of the things are pretty straightforward, what guys need to work out on. And it was pretty easy for me to go and just, work out with a guy for a session and kind of see what he needs to improve on. And I was able to, I think I was able to help those guys. But again, a lot of times, like with our best player, he was the point guard. He actually transferred to Penn State. What he needed help with it wasn't physical, it was more mental. And I think a lot of times, like the player development thing, people think is mostly just about skill development.
Right.
And when you got some of these guys that's super talented, it's not about skill development. It's you got to enhance the things that they do well, yes, and you have to work on weaknesses and things like that. But a lot of it, I think, is mental and kind of getting these guys to kind of see things. So for me, I'll watch a lot of video with guys because I think that that's one of the ways that you can help guys become better is by them seeing a lot of things. And then, again, you got to watch. Like we watch a lot of film of them, right? Of them in game situations. It wasn't like we were going to go watch Chris Paul and no, we're watching them. So we can see what they need to improve on. And, I like to ask a lot of questions about, why guys make decisions that they make. Cause I like to see, what they're thinking about in that situation. So we did a lot of that and think that helped guys out a lot. So that's kind of my primary roles. We also have we have groups, like accountability groups. And I have 4 guys that I'm in kind of in my group that you have to, check class and make sure guys are on time for things. And, when they are not, you have to handle those situations the way you see best. So, it was, I kind of felt like overseas, guys are kind of on their own.
Yeah.
But, one thing and part of it is that we had a lot of young guys. So, I did a lot of player development stuff. I did a lot of working guys out. So that was cool. But I like the resources we have in terms of video and the programs we have to break down video and stuff like that, which we didn't have we had in Czech, but I didn't know how to use it at the time. So I learned how to use it this year, the program we have here. So I got a real good opportunity, when I'm cutting. I did a lot of, like, when I was on the bus, I would cut a lot of video up. When I got to the hotel, sometimes I would call guys to the room. We would check stuff out before games, stuff like that. So, a lot of video stuff I think was helpful for these guys. And they need it because the game, the game is so fast now, and there's so many different things guys are being thrown at them that they don't have opportunity to focus on the right things. So I think that those individual sessions that we were able to have really, really helped out.
That's awesome. So, Coach, do you have any preference at this point? Obviously, you did different roles. You were the head coach there, assistant coach here. Just started basically in Binghamton, but so far, do you have any preference to what you like better, being in the college scene or the European pro scene?
Not really, because again, as I said, it's kind of it's basketball. I do think that a lot of the rules and stuff here are just ridiculous, So because I wasn't in the professional scene so long, I'm more. I think I've adjusted more to that, and it's going to take me some time to adjust to all of the rules and stuff that they have over here. But again, I think the one thing that I think my experience from overseas in terms of coaching and playing can really help me over here, because I just think that the basketball overseas is better. The quality of basketball is better overseas. I think
from the team standpoint,
Yes. From a team standpoint, the quality of basketball is and also I think probably that's because you are coaching guys that are 28, 29, 30. You know what I mean? So they have developed, they understand now. A lot of times when you get these, like in college, when you have these guys that are thinking about going to the NBA or trying to play professional, it becomes more of me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
And
a
they're
lot of,
young. The maturity level's not there.
yeah, and then it happens. When you get those guys overseas too. That's why a lot of European coaches don't like to take rookies because
Hmm.
there's such a jump they have to make,
Yeah.
not skill wise, but mental wise,
Hmm.
Again, I had it with the kid DJ from last year from Iowa State. I mean, super talented. I mean, he was in that. I mean, I think his junior year, he was in. He was at Iowa State when Trey, what's his name, Trey Young was at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He had the most 20-point games in the Big 12.
Okay.
So he was super talented, can score. I mean, but it was
Now,
just
did
the
he transfer? I want to say I saw him one time at Albany, right?
no. So we had two guys. We had a kid from that went to Albany
A
also.
left-handed point guard, right, from Albany.
No. We had a kid from, I think he's from Baltimore, Singletary.
Okay.
Singletary. He went to Albany.
That's right. That's right. He was tough. He was a
Yeah.
tough little point guard.
Yep. So he played for us the second half of the year last year
That's right. That's right.
yeah. So, but this kid was super talented, but it was all between the ears.
Yeah.
And as I told you, he sent me a message the other day. He was saying like, "Yo, man, I can't believe I'm watching." I forgot what game he was watching. He was like, "Yo, I can't believe how bad I was on defense." But again, it's about the growth, right? But
Yeah.
again, when you get that kid when he's 28, now you got a guy that's going to be a hell of a player. You know what I mean? Who's going to be ready to do all of the things for the team, right?
Right.
Which he wasn't ready to do as a freshman or as a rookie.
Hmm.
Right, the same thing he did as a senior in Iowa State, right? So I mean, I like the professional game just because there's a lot less rules and things that you have to deal with. But I also like the professional. I also like the college game because I think there's a great opportunity here to help the basketball. With as you said, just the team game, right?
Hmm.
And I think if you can implement and you can get guys to play together, you can really do some things here in college basketball.
Definitely. And they're also at a really good age. You can really have an effect on them, both not only their game, but also them personally, being a role model for those guys and affecting the next steps of their life and really kind of impacting them because they're on that border, from becoming a teenager to a young man. And I know obviously you must be making a huge impact as somebody who's a role model to them because they want to follow in your footsteps. Ever since we met, you've been like a mentor for me, coaching wise. Somebody I looked up to. You were able to navigate from playing to coaching so well. That's not an easy transition, but again, it goes back to who you are as a person. I think your roles at Binghamton kind of fit in with what Coach Amaker kind of said, which was basically, do what you're good at, and some of the best things you're good at is your likability, your personality. That goes along with recruiting. You were a great player, great point guard. That goes along with your player development. So I think you're really capitalizing off that advice. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You shed a lot of great light to some topics that a lot of people don't really know and are really looking for the type of advice that you gave. And so, I know the people watching appreciate it, but I really appreciate your time and all of this that you shared with us. So thank you very much, Coach. It's been a blessing to have you on here.
Appreciate it, Chris, man. As I said, I like to, whenever I have opportunity to get on, these kind of calls and interviews, I like to take them because, you never know who you can help from hearing your story or some of the knowledge you can shed. So I definitely don't take these things for granted. Again, I appreciate you having me on, and you're also doing some great things, man. I see all the stuff you're doing with what you're doing with your network, and again, seeing you go from Germany to Czech. I'm pretty sure soon you're gonna be coaching somewhere, one of these big time organizations. So continue to do what you're doing. And again, as I said, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate those words. And we got to catch up soon. I think, there's also a young kid I got here that I'd like you to take a look at some point. But anyway, good luck with this coming season. And I'll definitely be staying updated and hopefully seeing you guys really turn that program around over there.
Definitely, man. Appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Take care, Coach.